He's also a complete bastard, and I wouldn't want to miss an opportunity to stab him in the gut and take control of his army. So, there's that.
Greetings ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, my name is Adrian from Game Reviews Malaysia. Welcome back to the channel. Today's review is about a game that I've grown to enjoy the more I've played it, Tyranny. Tyranny from Obsidian Entertainment, the makers of Pillars of Eternity, is an isometric RPG game that harkens back to the great RPG games of old, and many will definitely be familiar with the style of gameplay, especially if you've played Pillars of Eternity. Tyranny is not a sequel, but a brand new story in an interesting setting. You are a Fatebinder, and a Fatebinder's word is law. You are in the service of Kairos, whose armies consisting of the Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus seek to smash any who stand in their way of conquest in the Tiers, which is the last major region of the world that has resisted Kairos' rule. Therefore, depending on your own perception, you are an agent of chaos, in league with the bad guys. Well, sort of, and that's just a small taste of the moral structure that the game presents. It is here where your part in the game truly begins after having been given the choice to shape your own backstory and your role in the conquest. You must now carve your journey ahead and face the moral consequences of your choices from the conquest itself, your future allegiances with factions, and of course deciding the fates of your party members as well. And speaking of which, Tyranny's gameplay largely focuses on traditional aspects of the RPG genre. There's lots of questing to do, following very well written storylines that's rich in wit and lore, and the main storyline is fully voiced and immersive. There are plenty of unique characters that you will come across, and it's up to you to determine how you see them, as friend or foe. Progress further in the game and you will recruit new party members, and you can have a total of 4 at any given time to follow you on your adventures throughout the tiers. Combat is as you'd expect party-based, and you can pause mid-combat to issue attack orders and skill commands for individual members of your party. Being an RPG game, you can also expect a good amount of character progression in the form of skill trees, crafting, spell crafting, and lots of loot. There's also a home base or a stronghold system that we know from Pillars of Eternity, and the difference is it's called Spires in Tyranny, and to unlock them, there's a unique side quest that you must follow, which is great. Now that I've given you a brief overview of the game, let's go through the pros, the cons, and the final verdict to determine if Tyranny is worth the money. The pros. Pro number 1. Gameplay. Overall, Tyranny has been a solid game to play, and I've really enjoyed my time in game. One of the most important aspects in this type of RPG is the combat, and I will say that I feel Tyranny's party-based combat is a definite improvement over Pillars of Eternity. Combat feels much more fluid, and the UI does help improve the experience, as all your skills and spells are available to you at the click of a button. I also feel that Tyranny could be the modern example of the classic RPG game, as it checks all the boxes that makes the genre great. The quests and the quest dialogues are well written, complementing the stories being told about this world. Not all of them are fully voiced, however, so expect to do plenty of quest text reading, which may turn you off. It's also great to see that there's more difficulty options this time around, so there's something for everyone here. You can either play a more easy and streamlined version, where enemies start combat with a disadvantage and you don't have to micromanage your party as much, with party members being auto-leveled up with skill trees being filled in by the AI, or you could do everything yourself and go hardcore with a permanent Deaf Iron Man mode if you wanted to. And of course, the RPG side of things is also exceptional, and there's a lot to be satisfied with in terms of character progression for your Fatebinder as well as your party. There's large amounts of skills to pick from various skill trees that will complement your style of play, and it goes deeper into spell crafting, where you can pick up scrolls around the world and cook up new mage builds, and then there's crafting and gear upgrading, whereby if you have the materials, you can take them to a smith in your home base, aka the Spire, to get your gear upgraded. There's a lot to do in Tyranny, and the entire story arc plus the sides will give you at least 20 hours of solid gameplay. Pro number 2. Choices, choices, and choices. There's plenty of choices for the player in Tyranny, and almost all of them are choices that matter. From the very start of the game, you'll get the option to take part in the conquest, which is sort of the prologue to determine your role at the beginning of the war, and it does feel like you're playing through an interactive novel. The consequences of your choices, however, are fantastic, and it reflects in the world and how characters react to you in combat or in dialogue. For example, in the Conquest, I decided to kill X to show the Tiers that I'm a hard ass. When the game begins, the enemy forces addresses me as X-Slayer, which is great. I now have a reputation that precedes me, and more dialogue options and responses opens up because of it. I also love the reputation system, in which every decision, action, or response of yours could gain you favor, wrath, or fear with the individual or faction you're interacting with, thus bringing up more branching options and choices in dialogue and gameplay. Gaining loyalty with your companions will grant you special skills that you can share with that party member, while building favor with a faction will give you benefits and other passive bonuses as well. On top of that, there's the whole moral structure of who you are as a human being in this world and what your goals and motives are. You can choose to be a ruthless, power-hungry person who cares nothing about the innocent, or be the knight of justice and have the world revere you for your kind actions and deeds. Needless to say, whatever you choose, there will be consequences affecting the world, making the replay value of Tyranny incredibly high. Pro number 3. Polished. Unlike Pillars of Eternity, Tyranny launched as a very polished game. As to date, I've encountered 0 crashes, bugs, glitches, or AI pathing issues that required a serious patch. Getting a game this polished at release is becoming a rarity these days, so it's nice to see that Obsidian and Paradox put in the extra effort to ensure that the game launched without a hitch. Pro number 4. Presentation. And finally, Tyranny scores very high marks for the game's presentation. The art style is gorgeous, and the colors really do represent the new ethos that you're on the bad side this time around, at least in my opinion. The graphics of the world, the maps, and even the character portraits are very well designed, and it does elevate the level of immersion. The soundtrack for Tyranny also gets 2 thumbs up, with the main score being one of the best I've heard for an isometric RPG since Pillars of Eternity and Divinity Original Sin. The cons. Loading times. My biggest issue with Tyranny is the long load times, and it's ridiculous how long the game takes to load. From continuing a saved game to entering a door, the load times are mysteriously long in duration for an isometric RPG of this scale. And just for reference, Pillars of Eternity also suffered from long load times. It's definitely not hardware related, and changing my graphics to the lowest setting did not improve the load time. If you're wondering, my PC specs are listed in the description box below. Con number 2. Small maps. The world of Tyranny is by no means small, and the map of the tiers is actually pretty big, but when you, as a player, move your party from one area to the next, the play area, which could be a town or an open field, actually takes place on a fairly small map. While this no doubt hastens the gameplay from a progression point of view, I keep getting the feeling that if the maps had been bigger, we could have gotten more content. Of course, since loading times are pretty long as it is, bigger play areas and maps would only make this worse, I feel. Con number 3. One camera angle. Gorgeous as the game is, and considering how smooth combat can be, it really bugs me that I don't have the freedom to rotate the camera for practical reasons. Hidden objects and loot often will be easy to spot, but there are occasions when your party is engaged in combat, but the fight could take place behind large gates, fences, and walls that you can't rotate the camera to get a better look at the action, which can sometimes be frustrating. Final verdict. Is Tyranny worth the money? Absolutely. With the base edition costing 85 Malaysian ringgit on Steam, the game offers an incredible amount of RPG goodness for the price, where your choices decides the outcome of the world and story. While many will argue that the story is somewhat short compared to others like it because of the branching choices, there's incredible replay value in Tyranny. And when matched with the game's classic and solid RPG gameplay, interesting take on the concept of evil with moral structure and reputation mechanic that matters, you have an RPG that in my book sets the standard for the genre for all other RPGs to be judged by in the future. I highly recommend checking Tyranny out, especially if you like RPGs. Tyranny gets a score of 9 out of 10. And that concludes my review for one of the best RPG games I've played this year, Tyranny. If you enjoyed the content, do hit the like button and feel free to share your thoughts about the game in the comment section below. Did you enjoy the game? What was your favorite part? Let me know. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more game reviews and MMO content. Once again, I'm Adrian from Game Reviews Malaysia, and I thank you for watching.